Are you considering the HVAC trade, maybe possibly getting into it, maybe considering what all your options are, and you want to know, is this a good option? Is this something that you want to do? In this video, I want to do an overall reason why I think that HVAC is probably the best trade to get into, and I'm going to give you 10 reasons why. I've seen other guys do videos very similar to this, some of them in HVAC, some of them in other trades, some of them are kind of playful and joking. This video is not going to be a joke. If you are considering this trade, I want to give you some serious reasons why I think this is a great trade to get into. I also think that I might be more qualified than most to make a video like this because I've worked in other trades before. So I went to school to be an electrician originally. I did that for almost 5 years. Then I did plumbing for a couple years before I finally found the HVAC trade. Let's dive into it. The 10 reasons why I think it's the best trade for someone to consider as a career. Number 1, the projected growth of this industry. Many studies have shown that over the next several years, this industry is not only going to grow, but over the next 10 years, it should double. And we've done other videos on that explaining some of the reasons that is. There are folks across the world that are getting more access to better comfort in their home. But ultimately, I think if you get in this industry, it's going to continue to grow. There are plenty of opportunities out there, and it's not going away anytime soon. Number 2, high demand. And this kind of plays into this projected growth. But aside from that, this is a very high demand position. There's not a lot of people getting into it. I'll be honest with you, I kind of found it where I went to school, the trade school that I started out in, there wasn't even an HVAC class, and there is a very large shortage in labor. A lot of the baby boomers are starting to retire, not just starting, they have started retiring, and there is a labor shortage across this industry. Anyone that wants to get into it and is serious about it, I think has lots of opportunities because of the high demand that this industry is continuing to call for. And it just, as far as I can see, it seems to get worse and worse every year. There seems to be plenty of room for folks that want to get into this. Number 3, let's switch gears for a second. And on number 3, I want to talk about the trade itself and talk about how you have to be a professional in this trade. And I would say across the board, no matter what type of sector you're in, unlike some other trades, I'm not going to pick on any of them, but I've seen other trades in certain sectors where you don't necessarily have to be the sharpest tool in the drawer, if that makes sense. You don't have to carry yourself at a high standard and have a level of professionalism. I know that might rub a few people the wrong way, but it's just the truth. I would say in almost every sector, except for maybe a few outliers, for the most part in our trade, you have to have a level of standards to yourself. You have to have a certain amount of professionalism when you're dealing with customers and dealing with other professionals, vendors, manufacturers, whatever. To do this trade and to do it at a high level, in my opinion, you have to have a very high level of professionalism. Number 4, and this kind of plays off of number 3, but number 4 is I don't think everyone could do it. In fact, I've seen this trade have other folks that have come from other trades get into this trade and it kind of gobble them up and spit them out. They don't last very long. They don't have the know-how. They don't have the professionalism. They don't have the drive to continue in a trade that's constantly changing, that's constantly growing, that's constantly requiring more of the average technician and or other professionals, engineers, all kinds of professionals that do this trade in one way, shape, or form. The fact that not everyone can do it, unlike some of the other trades that I've done in the past, I felt like was a good reason why I wanted to do it and get good at it. Number 5, you need to know many trades to be good at this trade. So what do I mean by that? Well, in HVAC, you're sometimes dealing with electrical, you're sometimes dealing with plumbing, you're sometimes dealing with its own brand of trade, if you will. You're dealing with airflow, ductwork, you're dealing with refrigerants and chemistry, you're dealing with all kinds of things that you've got to know as a whole to know this trade. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. If you're a pretty sharp cookie, I'm not the brightest bulb in the hallway either. You could probably figure it out, especially if you've got a good teacher. But the point is, unlike some other trades where you can niche down, learn the trade, and be really good at it, this one, you've got to learn a whole lot more things to be very good at it. You've got to learn multiple trades for this one trade, if that makes sense. And then finally, number 6, I think that not only do you need to be professional and not only do you need to learn all these things, but I would even argue that even people starting out in this trade need to have a level of smarts, a level of wanting to learn, and a level of being able to learn. And it's nothing against folks that, if you're, not good at math or you're not good at something else, it's no knock on them. I think that's what makes this trade unique. Even the guys that are starting out as an apprentice, you've got to be smart. You've got to be able to learn things and be smart when you're growing in this trade. I can tell you firsthand that is not the case in some of the other trades. You can be just someone starting out and maybe not the smartest guy around, right? Whereas with this trade, I feel like unless you're a gopher, unless you're just running to get tools from the van for the guy that you're learning under, I would say just about everything else after that, you've got to have some wherewithal. If you've got to run ductwork, even what we used to call tin knockers, if you're a tin knocker, you got to be a smart cookie. Some of that stuff is an art. For them to be able to make it look as good as they do and have it sized properly, have it installed properly, and all of that, you've got to be a smart guy and you've got to have a high level of learning and knowledge and wanting to learn these things even from the start, even from the get-go. And I will say that that's usually the folks that I see come and go the most. They've done other trades and they were like, oh, I did this for a few years, I did that for a few years, and I'm just going to try this trade. And those guys find out, even from the start, you've got to be a pretty smart cookie just to get by as an apprentice or a helper. So now that I'm done insulting some folks, hopefully I didn't insult you, but if you feel insulted by some of that, I'm sorry. Let's switch gears again. And number 7 is, I think that this trade, in comparison to a lot of others, is very rewarding. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to jobs or dealt with a customer and it just feels very rewarding, making them happy, fixing their system, fixing a problem. In some cases, they had other folks try to fix the problem, and by gosh, if you're the guy that gets that thing fixed when no one else could, that's very rewarding. It feels great. And I would just say in general, compared again to other trades, this trade can be very rewarding, seeing the end product and having a happy customer at the end of the day. I know there's other trades that can be very rewarding as well, but I can tell you, as someone that worked in a few other trades, there are times when you're waiting for a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of that acknowledgement, right? I will say that the HVAC trade is full of a lot of that, especially if you get good at it. If you get good at some of the other things we've talked about, if you've gotten good at learning and are willing to work hard, it can be very rewarding. Number 8, this one's kind of a weird one as far as the industry itself, but the industry is changing all the time. I can tell you that when I first got into this trade, that it was pretty much the same it had been for about 20 or 30 years. And then once I got into it, it seemed like everything kind of broke loose. And we've been having government standards raised. We've been having new refrigerants come out. We've been having all kinds of new equipment and technologies and all these different things. And the reason I even bring that up is it made our list because with the industry constantly changing, I think that that means more job security for those of us that are willing to put up with it, to stay in the trade and learn all these new things and be good at something. There's a lot of job security for some of these guys. If they've gotten really good at even one thing, if they've got a good thing that like a niche that they're just really good at, there's a lot of job security in that, especially if no one else is good at that. It's one of the reasons that I welcome change, new systems and technologies, and even the new standards for the minimum SEER ratings and things like that started coming out for these heating and air systems. I considered it a good thing. I welcomed the change because I knew that as the industry continues to try to find good help, it meant that I became more valuable in this industry. The labor shortage is not necessarily a bad thing if you're a part of it, because although you might be in high demand, you can also make more money because of the labor shortage. And that leads me to number 9, which is good pay. Compared to some of the other trades, you can make really good money, especially if you've gotten really good at this trade. If you're willing to work hard and learn it, there are plenty of opportunities out there for you to make a very good living as a blue-collar worker and even as a white-collar worker in this trade. You might eventually not have to necessarily be the guy turning wrenches and still make a very good living a part of this trade. And then finally, Number 10 is, I think, unlike a lot of other trades, the opportunities for advancement in this trade are unlike any other. And I really think I saved this one for last because I think that this is maybe the biggest thing that sets this trade apart from a lot of others. And what do I mean by that? A lot of other trades, if there is any deviation, if there is any sectors or breakup between it, a lot of them might break it up between residential, commercial, and industrial. And each of those sectors, you know, they've got guys that are good at what they do. With some trades, there's not really even any difference between those three. But with heating and air, I would even go one step further and say that not only is it broken up between residential, commercial, and industrial, but when you get into each of those sectors, then there's hundreds, it seems like, hundreds of different paths you can take in each one of those sectors. I'll give you a good example. Not only could you be in residential, but you could also be the guy that's really good at geothermal. Or you could be the guy that is really good at mini splits. You could be the guy that's blazing the path with newer technologies and inverter systems and all the new stuff coming out. You could be none of that. You could be the guy that could work on the old stuff when no one else knows how to anymore. You're the guy that can fix that boiler when a lot of these other guys haven't even seen a boiler like that. There's hundreds of different type of industrial types of systems. There's ammonia systems. There's chillers and cooling towers and high-rise buildings with VRV systems. There's just so many different things out there. I've got a friend that makes YouTube videos, and his whole thing is his family's good at businesses. They take care of restaurants and supermarkets, grocery stores, and things like that, which is unlike anything that I do. I've never even worked on an air conditioner in a grocery store, and I don't think I ever will, and I still do pretty well in this industry. That's just the craziest thing about it. I think unlike any other trade, this one has so many opportunities, so many paths you can take. I would even argue that you may not even know right now where you'll be 20 years from now if you start out in this trade, because of the doors that can open as you continue down this path and learn it, get better at it, and work hard at it. So that's my 10. Let me know your thoughts. Did I cover one that made sense to you? Or did I miss one that you've been considering as you looked at this trade and possibly getting into it? I'd love to hear about that. And if you like this video, I think you'll like this one even more. It's where I talk about things you should consider before you pick a location for your mini split. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.